such a big zchut that we're doing this together. We're going through it together. I cannot imagine. I'm mamish. I think about this every single day. I cannot imagine going through this not together. So I just want to give us all a bracha of like a little buckle up, that we should have a lot of sad dishmaya tonight every time we learn. But tonight I just feel it in the air that there's something that is just radiate, something shining so bright. So let's try to sing as much as we can. L'chovit Shabbos Kodesh. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol v'vor habracha. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol habracha. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol v'vor habracha. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol habracha. Meroish mikedem, oy nesucha, soif maaseh, b'machshava tchila. Oy lecha daiti likras gala, b'nei Shabbos nekabla. Oy lecha daiti likras gala, b'nei Shabbos nekabla. Ay 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 ay. Ay da da di da di 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 da da. Oy la 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 di da 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 da. Ay da di da di di da. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol v'vor habracha. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol habracha. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol v'vor habracha. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelecha, ki mekol habracha. Meroish mikedem, oy nesucha, soif maaseh, b'machshava tchila. Oy lecha daiti likras gala, b'nei Shabbos nekabla. Ay lecha daiti likras gala, b'nei Shabbos nekabla. Ay 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 ay. Ay na na di na di di da do 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 di da. Ay 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 ay. Ay penay shabababababas nekabla. So tonight's Mishmar, tonight's Farbrengen, tonight's being together is Leilui Nishma, a very special Yidula, someone who unfortunately I didn't have the privilege to know personally. But we say about Ya'akov Avinu, especially in this parsha, Ya'akov Avinu lo meis, Ya'akov Avinu never died. Why is it the Ya'akov Avinu never died? Mazaro b'chayim, afu b'chayim. When a person's offspring are mamish alive, when they're living the utmost Kedusha, when they're living Shabbos, when they're living Torah, that's considered when they're alive. When someone's Zera is alive, then we know that person never ever really took off. So physically speaking, yes, tonight is the yahrzeit of Reb Asher ben Eliezer, and I'm privileged to know some of his children and grandchildren. And we're davening tonight, Ribono Shel Olam. Please, 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 may the schus of this neshama be a melit yosher on us to open the gates of clarity. Clarity, clarity, clarity. Beirut halev, beirut hamoach, clarity of the mind, clarity of the heart. And may all those things that we know deep down inside, we know them to be emet, may they be what lead us. May our emet and may our connection to emes be that which guides us through everything that we're going through. So if you know this one, please sing with me. And even if you don't know it, it's okay, no one can really hear you. La 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 Parshas Vayechi, strong life. La 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 So dearest Chaverim, Chaverot, welcome from Eretz HaKodesh. Like we mentioned before, this evening's togetherness, this evening's energy is all Le'ilui Nishmas Asher ben Eliezer tonight on his yahrzeit. I believe we have some of his children and his grandchildren that are with us learning tonight, that are with us besimcha tonight. I want to just, it's very hard for me to contain my heart right now because there's so much going on. Bichlal, this week being a week where it's hard for me to even say this, we received home Jonathan Pollard. This is just, something beyond our wildest dreams. So having the schus of seeing miracles take place in our life, the way a Jew walks through a gate that's open for him, like we learned earlier this week, is that he makes the gates just a little bit more wider. You see what it is in this world when someone gives you something, parent, friend, a spouse, you don't want to be stingy. So when you receive something, you're like, okay, gewalt, good, thank you. I don't want to ask for too much, right? I don't want to ruin my luck. By the Rabbanu Shleilim, it's different. I was learning this morning with one of my chaverim, the hana'ah, the enjoyment that God gets when we become open vessels to receive from Him is far, far, far greater than whatever level of enjoyment we could be as a recipient. So if that's the case, the more that we enable God to give us, meaning that we create ourselves to be open to receive from Him, the more that you think you're doing good for you, but you're really doing good for a much, much larger picture. Jonathan Pollard, after all these years, is home. Chasdei Hashem. We have our boys, Hadar Goldin, Oron Shaul, Avra Magesto. Ron Arad is still not home on whatever level that is. We still have a lot more that Bezrat Hashem will follow through coming back home in the schut of what happened this week. So first of all, I just want to say, I want us to give Shevach Vehodah, I want to give thanks and praise to the Borei Olam, the Osa Niflos Gedolos Levado, Ki La'olam Chasdei. Your chesed is always, always, always. It's just the illusion, the mechitza of this world, when it seems sometimes that what's really happening. But you have weeks like this week. Ribbon Shleilam, Ashreinu Matov Chelkeinu, Ma'noim Garaleinu. So before we continue with learning something I have one nekuda I want to focus on in the parsha. One main nekuda. I just want to sing with you a bit more Bezrat Hashem tonight. I want to teach you a new Shlomo nigun. This is a nigun I'm sure many of you know. It used to be that you could pull out a bunch of new Reb Shlomo nigunim, but this one I think some of you may know, but it's okay if you know it. We learned it on the yahrzeit. Bam bim bam bim bam, ay da di da da, ay da di da di da, ay da di do 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 do, ay da di da da, da do da 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 da, oy da da di da da, oy da da di da di 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 di, oy da 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 da, oh do. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Hi, dearest friends. We should all live long. We should have happy lives, healthy lives. We should have what we call arichut yamim. Doesn't just mean that we live for many years. It means that the days itself should be long. Well, dearest friends, Baruch Hashem, my parents are still alive, but I'm sure people that have spent time with their parents in their last days, and maybe even on their deathbed, a lot probably happens in those few moments. Even if it's a few moments, it could actually feel that those moments last for centuries. Because when someone knows they only have a few more minutes to live, or a few more days to live, and they know that they can share with their children the most important thing that they feel they want to share at that moment, it's almost like you have to be tuned into nevuah. You have to have prophecy, because what the heart wants to share, you don't have enough time. It's too much. It's too awesome. What the heart would want to share, we don't understand such concepts, bichla. But what's interesting is that a number of times throughout our Torah, we see instances where one generation is about to take off and it wants to share everything with the next generation. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, that we see throughout the Torah people preparing us to basically keep on going on, when really, what we really want inside is someone to prepare me as to how to be there at the end line, how to be there for the final touchdown, how to be there when the end credits are good credits, or positive credits, or happy credits. But I could just imagine that if you look deeper into every departure that we have from any of our leaders, in between the lines, or maybe perhaps amongst the words that weren't spoken, are clear messages as to not just how to hold on tight, but what the great day is going to look like. And in our parsha, it couldn't be more sharper. I once heard a story. I'm sure you've heard this story before. It's a story about the Chofetz Chaim, that because this parsha is really all about Ya'akov Avinu wanting to reveal to his children when Mashiach is coming. There's a story about that. A Yid once met the Chofetz Chaim, and he asked him, how could it be that Mashiach hasn't come yet to reveal himself and redeem us from this long galus, after seeing that Am Yisrael is anticipating and waiting his coming for so long, for so many hundreds and thousands of years? So the Chofetz Chaim told him over a story it's a very important story, a short story that it's a famous story, in the city of Brisk. So the office of chief rabbi became vacant, and it was clear who they're going to ask to become the chief rabbi in Brisk. Who do you ask? Reb Yoshe Ber of Brisk, Reb Yosef Dov Ber, the Beis HaLevi. This is the grandfather, right, of the Rav. So the Beis HaLevi at that time, he was living in Warsaw, and a very prominent mishlachat, a group of people, came to came to let him know, listen, you've been chosen to be the chief Rav of Brisk. And immediately he showed opposition. He was not interested. Very interesting, very confusing. They sat down, they tried to convince him, you got to do it, you got to do it. He says, no, I don't have any interest. I don't want to be the Rav of a city like that. Or maybe he said, I want to be the Rav of a town. And when these people saw that he was adamant on not accepting the position, so one of the big machers in the Kehillah that was there, he said, Rebbe, there are 54,000 Yidden that are waiting for you, and you don't want to come and answer the demand of a need for you? The second he heard those words, there are 54,000 Yidden waiting for you, he told his Rebbetzin, please give me my Shabbos clothes, and I got to get ready. I have to travel very fast to Brisk. I have to briskly travel to Brisk, right? And he told them, to the people that came to offer him the job, he said, Rabbi Yisrael, if 54,000 Yidlach are waiting for me, then it's really not about me anymore. So the Chafetz Chaim finished telling the story to this person that asked about why Mashiach isn't coming yet. And the Chafetz Chaim said, listen to me, if the truth it was that thousands of Yidlach were actually waiting for Mashiach to come, there'd be no question. Of course he would come. But unfortunately, Mashiach's waiting for us to wait for him. Mashiach is waiting for us to wait for him. I've heard that story a number of times. I've heard it in different versions. But the way that I saw it this time was that Mashiach is waiting for us to wait for him is kind of what Ya'akov Avinu doesn't really say, but he's telling us. Ya'akov Avinu wants to let us know what it's going to be like when the great day comes. Nistalka mimeno shchina. The shchina, the prophecy of how he's going to come, what it's going to be like. Nistalka. It left him. So Chevra, I want you to, together with me, and I hopefully bless me to also, to be able to open my heart and to seat ourselves by the feet, by the bed of Ya'akov Avinu. Each of us right now, whatever Shevet we're from, we're behind that son. I'm behind Levi. You're behind whoever you're from. And we're each there sitting by the bed of Ya'akov Avinu, and we're also still waiting. And we're listening to Ya'akov Avinu's words. And Ya'akov Avinu has an opportunity right now. His opportunity that he has to make a choice. Do I want to share with my children on the level of clear prophecy everything that's going to happen until Mashiach comes? Or do I want to give my children enough strength to hold out to greet Mashiach? You hear that? Either Ya'akov Avinu is going to tell us exactly what's going to be, like that's what the pshat of the pasuk says, He asfu ve'agida lachem es asher yikre eschem be'achritz hayamim. Gather together so I can tell you that which will transpire, that which will take place at the end of days. I could do that. But then we see that that's not what the Rebbeinu Shalom want. Nistalka mimeno shchina. The shchina left him at that moment, meaning the prophecy left him at that moment. But friends, let me ask you a question. What's deeper? If you, God forbid, were on your deathbed and you wanted to give your children all the koyach in the world, and you wanted to give them enough strength to hold out, would you choose prophecy over strength? Meaning, would you choose choosing to share with them a description of what they would have to go through over the strength to hold out no matter what happens? You know what was revealed to Ya'akov Avinu on his deathbed? He thought that if I tell my children exactly what to expect until Mashiach comes, that'll give them enough strength to hold out. And the moment he was about to reveal to them exactly what they were going to go through, so that there wouldn't be any surprises, what happens at that moment? It's removed. So you hear how deep this is? You know what Ya'akov Avinu understands on his deathbed? I thought prophecy was the highest. Prophecy is nothing close to the ratzon of a father to give his children the love, determination, and passion to keep on going strong no matter what happens, despite any prophecy, any prophetic views, despite any prediction of the future. Let's face it, friends. We've heard so many different interpretations as to what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, what it's going to sound like. And maybe they've happened, maybe they haven't. but that definitely has not strengthened us to be ready. You know what strengthened us to be ready? Let's go back to the bed of Ya'akov Avinu. Hikaptsu. He uses two words, hikaptsu, and he uses the word he'asfu. Gather together. Ve'agida lachem es asher yikre eschem be'achris hayamim. Did Ya'akov Avinu tell us what will happen at the end of days? He did. Not the way he thought he was going to do it. Not the way that we thought he was going to do it. But when he tells us to gather together, we all know the end of days, the entering the era of Mashiach cannot happen if there's no he'asfu. And further, there's a beautiful word we say, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. It's one of my favorite moments in davening. I say that about every few psukim in the Machzor, but it's true. I just love it. It says in the Machzor, let me get the right words in. ובכן צדיקים יראו וישמחו וישרים יעלוזו וחסידים ברינה יגידו ואולס ותקרצפיה וכל הרישה כולה כעשן תכלה כי תעביר ממשלת זדון, sorry, a different one. Yeah, this is it. ויעשו כולם אגודה אחת לעשות רצונך בלבב שלם. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, when the gates are open to crown the king, the renewal of Shefa into the world, we say, "V'yasu chulam aguda achas." Everyone should become like one binding. Aguda, egod. Maybe that's the tikkun for eged, for the bus drivers. I'm not sure. Probably. Anyway, so the most important thing that we have to learn from here is, "V'yasu kulam aguda achat," is that just like in Lulav and Esrog, we take the Daled Minim, we put it together, and only when they're together, it's considered the Daled Minim. So to Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, we say, V'yasu chulam aguda achat. Why? Because when we become one aguda, then we can make your ratzon, la'asot ratzoncha belevav shalem. Then we can make your ratzon with a full heart. Now let's go back to our parsha. This morning I learned with my chaver Yossi a gewalt piece in Slonim. He'asfu ve'agida lachem. Agida, the word I will tell you, really comes from the word egod. Ve'agida lachem. I'm telling you exactly what you need to do, how you need to be in order to experience the acharit hayamim, the days of Mashiach. I'm going to ask a question I don't want to ask. I'm going to ask a question I really don't want to ask. I really don't want to ask it. How is it possible to be b'simcha these days when we don't really sense the aguda achas taking place amongst our people? I didn't want to ask this, chaver. My wife and I are constantly thinking about how do we give over Yiddishkeit to our children. Obviously, day and night, we all are. Until we realize our children are really giving over Yiddishkeit to us, but that's another, they don't have a chiyuv. We have a chiyuv to do it. They don't have a chiyuv to give over Yiddishkeit to us. We're makbid on so many different things. We're makbid on so many holy things. But it's amazing to me that as a people, we still haven't taken on Achdut Yisrael, loving and judging favorably without, meaning at all costs, for it to be just as important, if not more important, than teaching my child how to keep Shabbos, than teaching my child about kashrus, than teaching my child even about Kedushat Eretz Yisrael, which you know, Chevra, where we hold Kedushat Eretz Yisrael. It's very hard these days to mekabel from someone, to really receive the message of Torah from someone, when you know that Achdut Yisrael for real is not at the forefront. I have to share with you, friends, I've been privileged. I've been privileged. I had a really good friend. Many of you knew him, Reb Shalom Brat. Reb Shalom was his name. He was Shalom. This was everything about him was making sure that always remained the focus. I want to share with you a little bit of where he got this inyan of He'asfu ve'agida lachem es asher yikra eschem ba'acharetz hayamim. I forgot the name of this place in Chicago. It's those of you that are from Chicago probably will recognize this in a second. It's basically like a pizza shop. You know, in America, like a pizza shop is also, actually, any type of restaurant is like 15 types of restaurants. Every burger joint has sushi and Chinese food and Japanese food. Every pizza place is also a cafe. It's one of these places, it's a really nice place in Chicago. And sometimes when I would travel directly from Chicago back home, thank you, Avi Miller, he would get me some of these good flights, sometimes going from Chicago back to Eretz Yisrael through Austria, I think it was. So I would stop at this place on the way to the airport to get some kosher food for the way. And it was a Sunday, and the night before, I had a concert in one of the shuls there. It was a strong concert, Baruch Hashem. So it was somewhere in West Rogers Park. Online, to get my tuna bagel. So this Zisa Yid, the Chabadsker, was in front of me. And he turned around, he noticed it was me, he said, "Oh, wow, how you doing, this and that?" And I said, "Oh, Lubavitcher, I'm so happy to see you. Where are you from?" So he says to me, "I'm on Shlichus in Milwaukee. We're driving back to Milwaukee now." This is what he said to me. He said, "You ever been there before?" I said to him, I did. A number of years ago, my father and I performed at a Reformed temple called Temple Menorah in Milwaukee. He says to me, I'm like, no, I really did. He's like, no. And it's like, that excitement of him meeting me, this and that, it ended completely once I told him I played in a Reformed temple in Milwaukee. And it was a really special night and all that. He says to me, no. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "There's no such thing as a Reform temple. Just like there's no such thing as a conservative temple, there's no such thing as Orthodox temples. There's Yidden." And he walked away. And that's, even though you obviously understand I wasn't Khalila, some of my best friends are, so to speak, Reformed Jews. It had nothing to do with that. But that zets that he gave me is something I'm eternally grateful for. The way we speak, the narrative, it's all in the narrative. It's all right there in the narrative. It's true. Like Rabbi Y.Y. Jacobson shared with us a few weeks ago that he had the opportunity to speak to many different types of Jews. And all he said was, please don't dumb down the Torah, meaning don't belittle, don't take away from what we should be keeping. But don't box someone. Because when you do that, Ya'akov Avinu's dreams for the end of days cannot take place. It can't happen. The words He'asfu ve'agida lachem et asher yikre etchem b'acharet hayamim, they can't happen. So if we're still sitting by the table, by the deathbed, slicha, of Ya'akov Avinu, and we're trying to listen even clearer, we daven this Shabbos, please Hashem Yisbarach. Maybe the Shechina that was going to be a fortune telling, that would tell us exactly what everything would look like, was removed because that's what you wanted. But it can't be that the Tzaddik Ya'akov Avinu did not give over what he wanted to give over, that which is beyond words. And friends, I hope you mochel me for the next thing I'm going to say, but I have to say this. It's a statement I once heard from Reb Shlomo that really designed much of my hashkafa. He was asked the following: what do you think about a Reform rabbi? What do you think about a Reform rabbi? I think the question was a Reform female rabbi. It was like a dafka to try to, go there. He said a gewalting. He says, if you ask me who's an authority over the Torah, there's no two ways about it. We have a Shulchan Aruch. We have Chazal. There's nothing you could jump on your head all day long, but we have halacha. We have the Torah, right? If you ask me who's an authority over the Torah, we have the Torah. Moshe kibel Torah misinai mesar liyeshua. That we know where the authority is. But if you ask me who's holier, what do I know? What do I know? You see, Chaverim, we confuse sometimes the concept of who's holier in our eyes based on things that we have no idea of. And it's not our business. It's not our inyan. Many people are so, we spoke about it this week, our chaver earlier in the week, people are so caught up in the vaccination, in the vaccine that's brought so much hope to so many people. Is it more important for you to voice your belief in possible conspiracies? Or is it more important for you to be happy that many people's lives, specifically their parnasa, will be'ezer Hashem through the vaccine begin to get back on track? Where are we holding? What's important for us? He'asfu ve'agida lachem et asher yikre etchem ba'acharit hayamim wasn't a prelude to, and now I will tell you something. That is the answer. He'asfu, gather together, ve'agida, and you will make yourselves an egod, you will make yourselves bound to each other. That's what asher yikre etchem ba'acharit hayamim. That's exactly what's going to happen to you in acharit hayamim. But we've been suffering from misunderstandings about what that exactly means for a very long time. Because as you know, right after Ya'akov Avinu passes away, the brothers themselves are in this misunderstanding of, well, what did our father really mean, and this and that. So it's not our generation that hasn't gotten it together. We're carrying loads and loads, years and years and years of certain levels of trauma, of misunderstandings, of confusion, of anxiety, of stress, loads and loads and loads of it. But right now, we have to stay b'kol muram. I want to go back to shul. I want to go back to learning together. I want to go back to places of congregating to learn God's words in places where everyone knows and feels that they are part of the game, that everyone knows they're loved. Everyone, lelo yotze min haklal. Everyone. It won't work any other way. In the bracha that we end Shmona Esrei with, we say, Sim shalom tov v'uvracha, chaim chen v'chesed v'rachamim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Shalom is the one bracha, it's not possible to daven for it, to only come down onto you. You can't say, Ribono Shel Olam, bless me with peace, but that chevra over there, I don't really care so much, or my neighbor, whatever. But for me and my Dalit Amos, give me peace. What's that? That's nothing. Shalom in its essence means Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. On us and everyone else. I want to go back to the question I didn't want to ask you, and I still don't want to ask you. And I don't want to ask myself. Other than the mitzvah of emunah and feeling positive and being hopeful, lemaisa in my life, what am I doing to change the concept of what it means to be frum for my children? so that they understand that being frum means I'm choredi over loving every single Yiddilah. I'm nuts over it. I'm nuts over it. I'm crazily craving to make every Jew, and Be'ezer Hashem, non-Jew as well, feel loved and accepted. That's all I care about. That's all I care about. I don't know exactly what it takes to be a Ya'akov Avinu chassid, to say the least. I don't know what it is, but I know we're still sitting by the bed with Ya'akov Avinu. I know that hasn't changed. And I know the brachas the Ya'akov Avinu began to give us then are still being given to us every single second. I know that every parent that Chalila is on their deathbed and that knows they only have a few more minutes to give over to their children something, more than anything would want their children to get together and love each other and accept each other. More than anything. More than all the great accomplishments which hopefully we're doing. But Ribono Shel Olam, please make it clear to us that we shouldn't need deathbeds, requests that come on deathbeds, to remind us that that's really what matters in life. It really, really is. And even though this sounds like a broken record, this vort, the record is not broken enough, because we still need to keep on playing it. The brachas the Ya'akov Avinu began in this Parsha Vayechi, they're still going strong. And every time a Jew opens his heart to try to understand Ya'akov Avinu just a little bit clearer, you hear the brachas of Yaakov just a little bit louder. Reb Shlomo only has 1 or 2 nigunim from the Torah, but in this Parsha is one of them. Please, please sing with me. This is from this Parsha. Eitan and I had the privilege of recording it a few years ago. Lishuascha kivisi Hashem Hashem Lishuascha kivisi Lishuascha kivisi Hashem Hashem Lishuascha kivisi Hashem Lishuascha Hashem Lishuascha kivisi Lishuascha kivisi Hashem Hashem Lishuascha kivisi. Give me strong harmony wherever you are. So, dearest friends, this one last thing I wanted to learn with you. Usually we try to learn the Birkas Avram, the Beis Avram, the Shlomo Rebbe on these Thursday nights. From the Parshios Vayechi till, I believe, Beshalach or Bo, there are no Torahs in that Sefer. So, what there is, though, is a tremendously beautiful biography in the beginning of the Sefer speaking about this tzaddik we've been learning from. For the next few weeks, we're going to be learning during the week, Bezrat Hashem, about his life. When the parsha that he begins again to teach from will come back, we'll go back to it. But for now, we're just going to be sharing. I had to share with you this one thing from Reb Nassan of Breslov. This thing is, his Yotzei was last week, and everyone's still feeling it in the air. And I would just love to end off tonight the whole Torah that we've been saying, Leilui Nishmas Asher ben Eliezer. This is a Torah that I saw a few years ago by Reb Nassan, and I feel that this is very, very, very important. And we're still by the bed. We're still bedside. Remember before we used two different words? We used the word hikaptzu and he'asfu. Reb Nassan says kibbutz, like a kibbutz, means an ingathering. What's an ingathering, Reb Nassan says? Kibbutz is kibbutz rechokim. The concept of a kibbutz is dafka ingathering of those that are far. Dafka elu harechokim. But in the beginning he said he'asfu. So Reb Nosson says like this, that the difference between an asefa to a kibbutz is like this. Asefa, gathering together, is gathering people that are not that far from each other. But kibbutz is like, the kabtzenu yachad me'arba kanfot ha'aretz. Gather us together from the four corners of, that's already pretty far. We say, im yeni dechacha biktzeh hashamayim, misham mikabetzcha. Let's say I'm so far from the Ribbono Shel Olam. I'm so far. I've been doing wrong my whole life. The lashon of asefa la'asof is not shaykh over there. Because you're not gathering in something. You have to go and ingather. You have to basically go and schlep in from far. That's kibbutz rechokim. So therefore, Ya'akov Avinu in the beginning, he said he'asfu, gather together to the sons that were already there. Because he felt that if all the sons would gather together, he can reveal when the Geula is. Then the Shechina left him. And then he understood that you can't bring the Geula only by those that are already close to each other. Bechinas asefa levad. It's not enough that all the tzaddikim meet and gather together and have a convention and decide that things are going to be good. That's asefa. That's an asefa. Ya'akov Avinu understood. Hashem yitbarach choshev leval yidach mimeno nidach. You have to think about the furthest Jew in the world. Someone that feels that them and God have nothing in common. That if there was ever a gathering of holiness, they would feel that they have nowhere at the table. Therefore, after he said e'asfu, he says ki kaptzu ushimu. You see what Ya'akov Avinu realized? We're learning so much about what Ya'akov Avinu learned about himself. He thought that because the Shnei Masar Shiftei Ka, the 12 tribes were together. He'asfu, gather together, you're here already. Come close. And he thought that's enough to reveal when Mashiach is going to come. Mashiach is going to come, Chevra, when everyone stops pretending that they know exactly when he's going to come. That's A. But if we have to learn from Ya'akov Avinu, it's that second word. He kaptzu. It's when Yidden... This has happened, I have to just share with you this last story, and we'll end with this. This is an amazing thing, how Mashiach is going to come. I don't know when the mikvahs here are going to be, really ready for Chevra again and for the men. And we're building one in our shul, Be'ezer Hashem. But I'm chalashing for a mikvah. So I bought this, I don't even know how to describe it. I bought this, huge, massive... I guess I don't know I don't even know how. I wish I had a picture over here. I bought this massive thing where you could toivel in, and I put it in one of the back outdoor rooms we have here, and I haven't used it yet because of a few technical things. But the guy that came to drop it off, he didn't know what it was. Supermarkets usually use it for containers to store things in massive freezers. So some guy, he looked like what we call in Hebrew an ars. I don't like that word so much, but I don't know if you know what that means. An ars is someone that, let's just say, you would not want your daughter to bring home an ars to meet the family, okay? So this guy, this punk, he was driving a truck. He comes, he calls me at 5 to 7 in the morning to drop this thing. I said, I can't believe this. I thought, Khalila, when the phone rings that early, it's about, telling me bad news about something. This guy comes early in the morning and he says, Ma baya, kacha matchilim la'avod. This is when we have to start working. I'm thinking, okay. He basically doesn't even come close to my house. It's because his truck, he said he couldn't bring it in. He dumps off this container in front of my house. And he's like, Kach, tachtom, sign. I'm thinking, what a way to start this process of putting a mikveh tahara in our house. And then he goes back to his truck, and he looks back at me and says, Tagid li, efshar lishol etcha mashu jinji? Now, whenever a Sephardi calls you Gingy, it doesn't, not even a Sephardi, but usually Sephardim look at all Ashkenazim and say, Gingy. It comes from a cute place, a sweet place. I don't think I'm that much of a Gingy, but whatever, it doesn't matter. He says to me, Gingy, tagid li mashu. So I can. He says, Maze. Like, he said to me, I only deliver these things to supermarkets. Maze. Bishvil ma yesh cha et ze? Why do you have this? He says to me, I say to him, אתה באמת רוצה לדעת? אני שם פה מקווה מאחורי הבית שלי. You really want to know? I'm putting a mikveh in the back of my house. He says to me, ידעתי. אני חייב לשאול אותך שאלה, אח שלי. בגלל הנגיף, because of COVID, סגרו, this is a while ago, סגרו את כל המקוואות איפה שאנחנו גרים בצפון. He lives in the north. He says, they closed all the mikvahs where I live. Thinking, what does this guy know what a mikvah? If you saw what this guy looks like, you wouldn't think he knows what a mikvah is. He says, they closed all the mikvahs where I live. אז נסעתי, חשבתי שאם יש מקווה שהוא פתוח, אז זה יהיה בצפת. אז הייתי בחיפה, ולקחתי את אשתי, נסענו לצפת, כי היא הייתה צריכה מקווה. He drove from Haifa to Tzfat, because his wife needed a mikvah, and he figured that if anywhere close to him had a mikvah that was open, it would be in Tzfat. But when he got to Tzfat and started asking people where there's a mikvah, they thought he was crazy. They were pulling his leg. He said he went around for 3.5 hours looking for a mikvah. So he said to me, תגיד לי, אם אני אקנה כזה ואני אשים את זה בבית שלי, זה גם בסדר? And it broke my heart because these mikvah, these containers are not kosher for women. It's not even b'di'evid. This is just for men, because there's no chiv tvila. Unless you're going up to Harabait, it's another shayla. But why can't I lechatchila think that this guy is capable of doing such a thing? Who needs the kibbutz in a situation like that? Him? I need it. Because I am so far, if I can't even fathom that inside this Yidela will drive an hour and a half during COVID so that his wife can toivel, because he couldn't find any open mikvahs where he lives. I love these moments of feeling like nothing. They're great. They're really cool. They're really, really good. And I'm thankful for them. And I know the people that I get to learn with are thankful for those moments as well. And that gives me the koyach to keep on going. So chaverim and chaverot, have a gewalt Shabbos Kodesh. We should know of good news of Arichus Yamim. Reb Asher ben Eliezer should have an Ilui Neshama and Nachas. The Neshama should have eternal Nachas from his children and grandchildren. And may the gates that were open with Jonathan Pollard's return home, may those gates become so wide, enabling all our brothers and sisters that are still in Galus to also come home. Even if they're not in physical captivity, those of us that are still there should come home, and those of us that are in Eretz Yisrael should begin to really taste how lucky we truly are. Good Shabbos Kodesh, everyone.